The Miami Dolphins head into the 2026 NFL Draft with tons of capital to help rebuild their team. And with a new general manager and head coach, now is the time to start building for the future. So let's do exactly that with a 5-round mock draft for the Dolphins in today's episode of Best Available. Thank you for watching today's episode. Make sure you're subscribed on YouTube if you're not already, and give us a follow on socials at BestAvailableYT. If you're a huge fan of the NFL Draft, consider becoming a member. I'll leave details to that in the episode description. You do get full access to my NFL Draft Big Board, and without closer getting to the draft, if you just want some kind of cheat sheet throughout draft weekend, I highly encourage you to become a member. Again, details to that in the episode description. Let's go ahead and get into this mock draft. The strategy for this mock is going to be pretty simple because I feel like a lot of NFL teams tend to overreach or overstep or take big swings after regime change. And for the Dolphins, with Jon-Eric Sullivan as GM, Jeff Hafley as head coach, Malik Willis now as the quarterback, this is a team that's in a position that they can't think about this year as being the year. They need to think about just sustainable long-term pieces to keep bolstering and improving the roster, honestly, across the board. Willis may be the answer, but for at least right now, I don't think I'm going to take a quarterback. I'd rather have that option in 2027 and then see what Willis can do this year. But this is kind of the strategy. I don't want to take big, unnecessary swings. I just want players that can, A, kind of play right away, but B, also have the upside to keep developing because we really want to compete in the coming years. With the 11th overall pick to start this mock, listen, Mansoor Delane's on the board. I'm sprinting that card in. You could make the argument to me that maybe, they wait for a corner because it's such a deep cornerback class, and maybe they take, a different position. And it really does entirely depend on how the board falls to them at 11. But for me, with Delane on the board, this is a no-brainer. Despite how deep this class is, I do think Delane's almost in a tier of his own at the top. I mean, this is a kid that I've been watching since his Virginia Tech days that's super sticky in coverage. He's got really impressive movement skills and length, so he can be one of these press man corners, stick to you. But I also just love his instincts in zone, especially when he's one of these flat defenders. He's reading the QB's eyes. He's baiting them into throws, whether it's over the top of him or, a hitch in the slot, and he's going to break down on that. He's just got excellent instincts with the way he moves, with the way he's wired. He's awfully physical. He just checks so many boxes for me for what I need for a starting cornerback. And I think getting that with the first pick, we don't have to address corner. We can still double dip. I know how many corners the Dolphins have on their roster, but how many are you really going to keep on a 53-man, especially if you want to keep improving that side of the football? So Delane's the choice here. I don't think there's going to be a lot of debate about that if he's on the board, but it just gives us some more flexibility for our future picks as well. The Dolphins are losing Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, and Malik Willis needs some weapons, man. I want to at least make sure that we can see what he's got to some kind of degree. So I'm going to go with a wide receiver here with their second of 2 first-round picks. Feels fitting that with the Jalen Waddle trade, you're using this other first-round pick on a wide receiver. Let's take Denzel Boston out of Washington. Really big-bodied threat at 6'4", has tons of impressive highlight catches. He's got that body control and soft hands, and he can be aggressive with them. He's just so comfortable high-pointing the football and boxing out defenders, so he can really put up a highlight reel of impressive catches. But what impressed me just as much as that for a 6'4" receiver is how clean he is getting in and out of his breaks. He's got really impressive foot speed for a guy with his frame at wide receiver, which makes him all the more impressive. I think when you see a 6'4" receiver returning punts for a team, that's kind of all you need to know about his skill set. But it is a really fun player to watch. Boston would be an immediate upgrade over the rest of these receivers. And, they're kind of missing a big body size guy. They signed Jalen Tolbert and Tutu Atwell, and maybe those guys can fit as rotational complementary pieces. But Willis is going to need some kind of guy to just be like, F it, this guy's down there somewhere. And to me, Denzel Boston can be that guy while also being a bit more of a separator than you might expect. He just screams potential number 1 receiver on an NFL offense if all things go right for him. And I just really like the fit between him and Willis for Miami. Defensive end or edge is still a need for this team. And with Jeff Hafley potentially bringing in a 4-3 base defense, with the 43rd overall pick, I'm taking Gabe Jacas out of Illinois. Some other edge options here at 43, whether it is an R. Mason Thomas or another, undersized edge. And yeah, they should probably need some pass rushing juice, but if you're going to switch to one of these 4-3 bases, I just feel more comfortable personally getting a power rusher that can play against the run, and boy, does Jacas fit that mold. Coming in at 6'4" and 260 pounds with 33-inch arms, he is definitely a power rusher. What I love about the way he power rushes, he's got some nuance to it. He's really good at counter moves. He's got some hand usage to him. He's one of these guys that really does a good job of reacting to what the offensive tackle's trying to do against him and finding an answer to that, which I really, really like. Plus, with his size and his length and being able to get extended and not being timid at the point of attack, like, he's very a legitimate edge setter as well. Like, this guy is a 3-down player for you, and I think having him opposite of Chop Robinson, especially if you want to go more of the 4-3 base route, Jacas is a legit starter right away, and the fact you're getting him in the second round feels like a huge win here. There's enough buzz at this point about Jacas, if you've been following along draft circles for a while, like, he could sneak into the end of the first. So if the Dolphins get here with their first second round pick, like, hey man, like, take it and run. The Dolphins have 4 third-round picks, and if you're wondering why I'm not doing a full 7, I've watched 165, 170 prospects here. I'm not just going to make stuff up about the 7th-round picks the Dolphins have, so we're just going to stick with 5. That's plenty of picks, especially with all these guys in the third we're going to talk about. Starting with the 75th overall pick, let's get an interior offensive lineman. Let's go Jalen Farmer out of Kentucky. This is a guy that really surprised me when I turned on the tape. I'm pretty late to watching him in the process. Kept hearing these Kentucky guys are pretty solid, and I had seen the consensus for where Farmer was at. He should be way higher than what consensus is ranking him, because this is a guy that shows up and just displaces bodies. Well, one of the best bulldozers in the run game in this draft class. Has enough speed and explosiveness to operate as a puller as well in space. He's not the most fluid, but he's got pretty quick feet for a guy of his size. And I just appreciate that he sinks his pads, launches his hips into contact, and then drives those feet through contact to actually move bodies in the run game. Pass pro's decent. We still need to work on it a little bit. I think the lack of fluidity, has some reasons for why he's not an elite pass protector, but I think he's way better than people are giving him credit for. Like, to me, this is a guy that can slot in and start almost right away. And I know that the Dolphins need some guards to pair around Aaron Brewer at center. Just keep protecting him. He is obviously a very valuable asset at center. And I'd rather not have Jamari Salyer starting a full season if I'm the Dolphins. So give me Farmer, and hopefully he can get into that starting lineup sooner instead of later. Safety is also a need for the Dolphins. So with the 87th overall pick, give me Zakee Wheatley out of Penn State. This is one of the more fun safety prospects I'll watch. And Penn State down year, I know that, but it feels like a lot of their prospects I ended up really liking. Whether it was Denai Dennis Sutton, Katron Allen, Vega Ioane, but Wheatley, man, brings just a really fun skill set at safety. He's kind of long and wiry, but he's got really legit sideline to sideline range and play speed and explosiveness. And he can be, stickier on matchups against tight ends and man coverage. He's whiffs a bit in run support, but I really appreciate, and this is what Jeff Hafley's going to appreciate, is he's not afraid in run support. And I feel like that is a big cornerstone of a Hafley defense. Being a Packers fan myself, I got to watch Hafley the last couple of years, and it was very clear, like, they want their DBs to fill the run. And I think that's why Evan Williams became such a, key player for the Packers this past season. Wheatley fits that mold. We can work on the tackling technique and him whiffing, but we can't teach his effort. And man, he is not afraid to throw his face in to fill the alley. So I love that combination of that plus bringing plus value in coverage. It's a really weird class with a lot of hybrid players. Wheatley is one of those. Really fun though. Turn on the tape, especially if you're interested as a Dolphins fan in a safety. I think you'll end up liking Wheatley quite a bit. I'm going to double dip at corner here at 90. I know how many corners the Dolphins have on the roster. I just want guys that are going to compete to be legit starters for years to come, especially in a Hafley defense. And for me, Dalen Everett checks that box out of Georgia. He's 6'1" and 196, ran a sub 4.4 40. This is a really fun player when you turn on the tape. He really wants to help in run support, which I really like. He is mean as hell. He can play press. He's patient in press when he's not jamming. And he's sticky enough that I really think he can, stay 2 wide receivers. Now, there are some issues as far as, I'm got some questions about not his top end play speed, but his, burst and acceleration against more explosive receivers off the line of scrimmage. He can be a bit grabby, which shouldn't be surprised with the way this guy's wired. But at the same time, like, for as aggressive as he is and as effective as he is, I would like to see him clean up the tackling technique a bit. But with the way he's built and the athletic testing and just his willingness to fit in the run, this screams a Hafley corner. It's why I'm willing to double dip at cornerback this early. I think it's a worthwhile pick and a necessary dart throw if the Dolphins want to continue to bolster their secondary. With the last of their third round picks at 94 overall, I'm going with a little, maybe you could consider this a luxury pick, but I just love this player so much, and I would hope Jeff Hafley does as well. It's Caleb Proctor out of Southeast Louisiana. Guy I finally got around to watching the tape, but I got to see him in person at the Shrine Bowl in Dallas back in January when I went, and I was like, oh, this guy's got some juice. And I never went back to watch the tape until recently, and now I finally get why there's the hype. So that my bad, guys, accountability. Sorry I didn't get to it sooner. But now that I've watched him, it's clear he's going to need a very specific home. He's probably going to end up weighing in at the NFL between 280, 290, 295 pounds. He's a bit undersized, but man, talk about explosiveness and twitch off the snap. This guy can fly into the backfield and beat offensive linemen off the snap. But he's also got really, really legit length. We're talking about 33-inch arms on a 291-pound frame, weighed in at the combine. And then he blew everyone away by running a 4.79 as a defensive tackle in the 40-yard dash. Like I said, that lack of size is going to be an issue. I don't think he's a three-down player. He needs to be like a late passing downs kind of guy. But he impresses me a bit more than I was expecting for a smaller guy at the point of attack against the run, just because of that length. He's really technically sound at getting extended and disengaging through hand usage, which is, what I need to see from a smaller guy. Like, bigger bodies are going to throw him around. He's going to lose balance. But you go and watch the LSU tape. Like, that's a really good team they're playing. He really steps up in big moments. The result's not what you want, but he played his ass off in that game. And really impressed with him. It's a very unique player, and maybe you could argue a luxury pick, but he's going to fill a very specific role. And I think Hafley can work with a guy like this and make him a pass rushing menace on the interior. Seems like Greg Dulcich is going to be the starting tight end for the Dolphins, and I don't hate it. He's a totally fine player, but I always want more tight ends, especially in today's NFL. And maybe we could have tried to go for a potential starter earlier in this mock draft. I just don't think that's a necessary position we need to swing on value-wise when we're trying to rebuild this team right now. I think we can find, maybe a bigger name at tight end, whether through the draft or free agency in the coming seasons as we rebuild this roster. But Oscar Delp out of Georgia would be an awfully nice complementary piece to this team. He is, overshadowed by a really weird Georgia offense that he was not heavily involved in. Started his career playing behind Brock Bowers, so it was hard to see much of him until the past couple of seasons or this season. Really fun tape. He's way more athletic than you'd expect. He can really carry up the seam. He's got the body control to make circus catches. And I came away much more impressed with his blocking than I think a lot of people have talked about. And the technique isn't all there yet, but the want to and ability when it flashes is really, really impressive, where he can just displace bodies, throw them out the club, stick his nose into something. He's got the measurables and, want to that he's going to eventually be a good blocker in my eyes, especially if we can work on that technique. I just think it's a nice complementary tight end to Dulcich. So if you want to run some 2-3 tight end personnel, Delp can be on the field. I think we're sleeping on him a bit too much. Go watch the tape. He just doesn't get involved a lot because of the way Georgia passes the football. But I promise you, man, like, this feels like a legit NFL player that'll be around for at least a few years. Wrapping up our mock with this final pick in the 5th round, it is Emil Wagner out of Notre Dame. And I just thought getting a swing tackle of some kind that can potentially develop. I think this guy's got sky-high upside to eventually start, can fill in on either side. I think that is a worthwhile pick in the later rounds, just to make sure that you're protecting your number one investment, which is Malik Willis for the time being. Another guy I got to see in person at the Shrine Bowl, and I thought he was a brick wall. And it's funny because the tape over his last couple of years at Notre Dame doesn't necessarily show that. But when it came to playing legit competition in Dallas, in Frisco, he played both left and right tackle in all these one-on-one drills, and thought he did a really, really nice job of just holding his own, throwing guys to the ground. Then I went back and turned on the tape, and yeah, it was ugly for a while at Notre Dame, but I thought there were times in 2025 that he really flashed. And, he held his own against the Miami edges. It wasn't always pretty, but he held his own. And I like the fact that he can play left and right tackle for you. He's got this really thick frame at 6'6" with 34.5-inch arms. And he can move bodies in the run game. He's got legit strength to him, maybe a little stiff, but with his height and length, I think he can make up for that stiffness in pass protection when he needs to. Really fun player. I think we just need to keep refining his game. But I think he's the perfect swing tackle for a team that you can continue to try and develop and maybe fill him in at starts when needed at either left or right tackle. And hopefully he can become a long-term starter for you one day as well. And that's going to do it for our Dolphins mock draft. What did you think of this mock? Who would you rather have? What are some positions maybe we should have dressed earlier, later? I'm curious for Dolphins fans' thoughts. So let me know in the comments. Really appreciate you watching today's mock. If you made it all the way to the end, again, please subscribe. Really helps the channel as we continue to gear up towards the NFL draft, which we have plenty of content coming, including live streams on the first 2 days, maybe the third day. It's going to take me some convincing for a day 3 live stream. But thank you so much for watching today's episode of Best Available. We'll be back later this week. Take care.